I really don't know why I'm having such a difficult time with this. I record myself all the time. I get my thoughts down, video and audio. I have conversations with people about all the topics, but I just can't get myself to just talk. Maybe because the video is on. I just want to get my thoughts and ideas out of my head. And I have a way that I think it should go, but seldom do things go the way you plan. There's a lot of noise out on the internet. And one thing I don't want is to be more noise. So I'm just using this quote-unquote podcast to document the thoughts and ideas that I have and just put them out there. Because if I have some of these thoughts or ideas, maybe someone else does, and they can help me find the path to answer the questions that I ask. Or maybe it's something you never considered. An angle or a perspective that might be new to you to open up your mind and think a little deeper and maybe contribute to the world a little better. So with all that said, this is episode 0 of the Pondering Infinity podcast. Just going to take a look at life and observations and breaking all the rules of podcasting. I don't know how often I'm going to make a podcast or upload a podcast. I'm hoping every day. But I'm like many of you, just living paycheck to paycheck, trying to figure out how to get through life. At the beginning of the year, I started listening to Lex Fridman's podcast. He was interviewing Elon Musk, and I came into work exclaiming, "I'm going to interview Elon Musk." Everybody looked at me funny, and I had just listened to the podcast and had so many questions that I needed to ask him. But they weren't questions that he usually gets. Some of those questions I want to delve into. Specifically AI and machine learning and everything going on with Elon Musk. But there's so much more that opened up listening to Lex and just been living this life on this planet for the last 52 years. Almost. I'm going to make a lot of mistakes, including probably one I'm doing now, not watching my inflection. It'll get better. It's a work in progress, but it's primarily for me. Hopefully, excuse me. Hopefully, we can grow and learn together. But if not, I'll be content in asking and searching for answers to questions that I have. So this would be a nice place to have some bumper music. Since it's for me, put a little Hollywood Undead in there and fade in and fade out. What I'd like to try to do is every episode talk about some recent events going on through the prism of the philosophies that I've been working on since 2008. Looking at big picture life, just getting all the thoughts out of my head, just everything from UFOs to 0-point energy, so many different topics and so many different people I want to talk to, and perspectives, and flat earth, and religion, conspiracy theories, and music, AI. I mean, all these different topics, looking at them through a prism that you may never have considered before. There's so much I want to talk about, and it's incredibly difficult not talking to somebody. Very uncomfortable for me. I'm going to try to push through it. I know it'll get easier. I'm stepping way outside my comfort zone here. And so here we go. The first topic that I'd like to discuss, and it's ironically, it's some things are in the news, but electric vehicles, electric cars. I think Elon is wrong putting all his eggs into the Tesla basket. This past weekend, I had to work on my wife's Jeep, and although some of the repairs that I did were a little out of my comfort zone, I had to use the University of YouTube, and I know why. I can see why that professionals do the how-to videos, because if it was an amateur doing it, it'd be 6 hours of cursing trying to remove a radiator. But the electric vehicle, you know, how much are we going to be able to do the work ourselves? The electric car on the Tesla. I have a Hyundai hybrid, and I just spent the last 8 months fighting with Hyundai to get it repaired. Their faulty Theta 2 engine. The nightmare I went through with Hyundai and with Hertz. But I won't I won't drive an electric vehicle unless I absolutely have to. Right now I have to. But I think they have use cases. I think my son was telling me that some police stations were, police departments were converting to electric vehicles. So I can see the use case there, where you can use the acceleration, but what about all the infrastructure that's going to be needed to change? What about the oil and gas industries? I think everything can coexist if we have electric vehicles that people can buy. They're going to buy them instead of internal combustion engines. So that's going to reduce greenhouse gases. But what about a technology that we can implement to make life better right now? I'm not a scientist. I have no idea. Maybe this is just not possible. But what about a carbon sink in line, like a catalytic converter? Or reconfigure the combustion engine, or use technology. We can, Elon's trying to send people to Mars. We're doing space flight. We can land people on the moon, but we can't change the things that affect life day to day. So, come up with something better rather than take that option away from people. Then Elon was talking about his semi, the electric semi. Same situation. I think it has use cases. Now, there's an interesting video out there from. His name is Adam something. But he's got a video called "The Tesla Semi is an Engineering Failure." Pretty interesting video. I'm not going to go that far as to go after Elon like that, but I would question whether. I'm not going to buy it. I wouldn't buy an electric vehicle now, Tesla or Fisker or any other vehicle, because I can't work on it myself. I live paycheck to paycheck, and have bills to pay, and the work that they wanted to do on my wife's vehicle was almost $2,000, and I did everything for a couple hundred. Granted, the opportunity cost was my time and frustration, but all in all, I think it worked out better. So nobody really knew what was going on. But so the Tesla Semi, according to Adam something, is a flop. And then I had thought, well, what about electric airplanes? How's that going to work? How are you going to get the thrust for that? And it just so happened that this morning on my drive home, I heard about Alice. Alice is the first all-electric passenger airplane. I'm going to read from CNN. It says, with battery technology similar to that of an electric car or a cell phone and 30 minutes of charging, the 9-passenger Alice will be able to fly for 1 hour at about 440 nautical miles. The plane has a max cruise speed of 250 knots or 287 miles an hour. For reference, the Boeing 737 has a max cruise speed of 588 miles per hour. The company, focused exclusively on electric air travel, hopes that the electric plane can fit 20 to 40 passengers will be a reality in 7 to 10 years. So 20 to 40 passengers from however many we get on a Boeing 737. And it's going to take far more time. So I can't wait for Adam something to tear this apart. I should mention it to him because that'd be an interesting story. But I just think there's so many other areas to explore. So many other areas to explore. And I don't even know, should I keep going? Should I stop? It's been 15 minutes. I'm not sure what to do. It's very difficult not just get verbal diarrhea and just rattle off all these ideas that are going through my head, but I don't know if that'd be productive or not. There's a lot. I'd like to do something with music. I think it's very important that we understand how AI can affect us if we're not careful. Elon says AI is the biggest existential threat to humanity. Well, presumably because he thinks, or he's suggesting that the AI will get smarter than humans and take over like the Matrix, or similar to the Matrix. I think there's a little bit of a different threat that AI poses to humanity, and that is subverting our human free will. And I need to unpack that a little bit. So I think that if you were to eliminate, not make illegal, but eliminate something that deprives just one person of doing that, you're taking away that person's free will. Let me give you an example in practical terms. So yesterday I had a conversation with another podcaster, Patrick, with We Live on a Planet, and we were talking about autonomous vehicles, self-driving vehicles. And so I use the example, if you can program a Tesla to drive in the center of the lane, do everything that it's doing now, how easy would it be to program that Tesla to not be able to exceed the posted speed limit on the road you're driving? So, yeah, you can't exceed the speed limit. You could argue that's a good thing, but what I'm suggesting is that by programmatically removing that ability, that option, it's taking away your free will to choose the speed if you wanted to accept the consequences of getting caught. So people make decisions every day based on a risk-reward analysis or, cost-benefit analysis. We just do it so quickly that we don't realize what we're doing. But everything is done based on probabilities. So if you're speeding for whatever reason, if you're late for a meeting, if you have an actual emergency, and the self-driving car will not allow you, even if you disengage the autopilot and they still had that logic built in into a Tesla, it's not unconceivable. You're being deprived of that opportunity. Now, you could argue it's not a right, it's a privilege, and I'm not arguing that point about it. I'm just making the point that if you can programmatically remove a choice, you're taking somebody's free will. The fundamental thing that makes us human, in my opinion. God's greatest gift to his alpha creation. Now I'm going down another tangent that would lead to the philosophy and the meaning of life. We'll get there eventually. See, it's already getting a little easier. I don't even hardly notice the camera. But there's a lot of things to go into, and music is one of them. That's where I was going with this. So music is far more than just pleasant sounds, and AI can replicate pleasant sounds, but any music that has lyrics, those lyrics come from the lyricist's human life experiences. What formed them and shaped them growing up, and everything that makes them human. So how does AI create music with lyrics? You know, that if they're trying to make the Tesla bot more of a companion, rather than just filling tasks, menial jobs or dangerous jobs, or as Elon says, repetitive jobs that tend to lead to repetitive stress injuries. If trying to put emotions or make AI artificial human intelligence, you're already making it not human because it's artificial, right? Or if you're trying to merge AI with the human brain, you're making superhumans. You're not enhancing what it is to be human, which is the human experience and living, so the Matrix is not a good endpoint. I think we can all agree that would be bad for humanity. But I think an equally bad scenario is Star Trek. If you look at Star Trek, and I honestly didn't watch a lot of Star Trek, but if you look at what Earth was like in Star Trek, right? I would have to imagine that it was probably pretty good if they're out cruising the galaxies and warp speed, and life on the Enterprise. I don't think I would argue that it's not living the life. You want a steak, it's a replicator. You can't, everybody's wearing the same things. It's all the things that make us human are, most of them are turned off. It's conformity. So you think on Earth it's probably pretty utopian. People aren't working. But, is it you teleport everywhere? There's no more vehicles, or I don't know. It seems like like not the best scenario. What I would suggest is use technology to make living the human experience better and easier. So if you would just consider something, I'm thinking about asking people randomly or at work or whatever, is what brings you the most joy? If you didn't have to work, what would bring you the most joy? What would it be? Woodworking, spending time with your family, traveling, whatever you could do that would bring you the most joy. Teaching, anything. It doesn't matter. Now, imagine your utopia would be being able to do that, where you didn't have to work to get paycheck to paycheck, to muddle through life and not live, where you could enjoy enjoy your passion without having to necessarily, work to live. You're living to work. So you can, pick a job and, how can technology make that job better? To the point where, everybody is able to do what brings them joy. And I'm not talking like universal basic income. It's, we're talking utopias. If we can talk Star Trek, we can talk, my utopia, human existence. So Patrick and I continued talking about autonomous vehicles, and I suggested there's a use case for them too. I can see easily where it'd be beneficial to have an autonomous vehicle. For example, I work overnight and I drive home in the morning after 10-hour shift, and it sure would be nice to have a vehicle that could get me there safely and with minimal intervention. So in my whirlwind of fighting with Hyundai and Hertz, and to a lesser extent a local dealership here, Schottenkirk in Georgia, and having to get the Secretary of State involved and with this recall notice and everything. I came out and I got a car with a new motor and a new transmission in it, but it took 8 months to do so, and it was a fight, and I wasn't sure I was going to win it. But during that period where I was given a rental car, there were several times where they had, they called it lane keep assist for a Hyundai, and it was basically, it kept you in the center of the lanes. It used whatever cameras, or I don't know what it used. I mean, that's something I need to talk to Elon about. Photon cameras. I don't think it had photon cameras, but it kept you in the lane, and it was kind of nice. One problem that I had with it was if it didn't detect your hands on the wheel, it would give you a little bit of a warning and say not detect your hands. But if you continued, in the name of science, I conducted experiments. If you continued to keep your hands off the wheel, the default condition in the event of an emergency where your hands aren't on the wheel is to disable the lane keep assist, the only thing keeping you on the road. So most people aren't driving down the road letting go of the steering wheel. But if it were a medical emergency where you had a heart attack or you passed out or you were driving drunk and you exercising your free will, not saying it's right, but driving drunk and you let go of the wheel, the only thing keeping you on the road, presumably, was that lane keep assist, and now it's disabled. So not a real good default condition. I would like to see, I don't know how programmatically it would be difficult to, hit the flashers, slow down, pull over. I mean, even if it hit the flashers and slowed down to a crawl, it's better than running off the road, killing somebody or yourself. But then one of the cars had the lane keep assist, and then it also had the something like a laser cruise control that kept you a certain distance away from the vehicle in front of you. So if I'm doing 75 and I come up on somebody that's doing 70, it keeps the 3-car distance. So it's pretty close to autonomous without the changing lanes and doing all the other stuff and full self-driving Teslas. But when I first tried them out, it was freaky. But I wouldn't want that all the time. And whatever programmatically comes with that. The other example I used with Patrick was if you've ever ridden a motorcycle, let alone, going back to electric vehicles. Harley's now making a line of electric motorcycles. I hope they're not changing the Harley. I hope they have a backbone to keep producing it. If I were allowed to get another motorcycle, I definitely would. But after 2 motorcycle accidents, I'm not allowed to ride. But anybody that's ridden a motorcycle knows. I could ask anybody, I would imagine, if they would ride an autonomous motorcycle, a self-driving motorcycle. Besides the fact that would be super scary, at least in my mind. You don't ride a motorcycle to get from point A to point B. You ride a motorcycle to free your soul. So who in their right mind is going to ride an autonomous motorcycle, even if it is going to and from work, if we still had to work, but who's going to do that? I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there that would. But no, I don't think so. Well, I just looked at the time, and it's been about 30 minutes since I started this. I don't know how long to make it, but I do need to edit it and get a little rest before I have to go to work tonight. I think it is going to get a little easier as I go on. Maybe I'll get a little more comfortable. Start making movie references, television shows, be more myself. I hope so. With that in mind, tomorrow is going to be, I'm going to do an episode. It's going to be pretty special for all my Gematria friends out there. Tune in. Not that anybody's listening, but tune in and feel the power of the numbers. And talk about something pretty cool tomorrow. At least one thing. Probably many more. We'll get it done. So thanks for tuning in. This was episode 0 of the Pondering Infinity podcast. I hope you come back. Thanks. Bye now.